Resident Evil 3. Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later, but I didn't think it'd be this soon. Resident Evil 3 Remake has been officially announced, and I couldn't be more happy with this news. With RE2 2019 selling over 5 million units and becoming the most well-received video game of this year, Capcom has decided to bring my favorite character, Jill Valentine, back in a remake of my second favorite video game of all time. At Sony's December State of Play, we got a full 3-minute trailer of RE3 Remake. And believe it or not, there's a lot to unpack with this footage. From iconic character redesigns to new gameplay additions and refinements. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at Resident Evil 3 Remake. So first of all, I want to say to Sony, great joke announcing this game as an exclusive look at Project Resistance's multiplayer campaign. I loved that. Turns out Resistance is actually RE3's multiplayer. What a surprise. The trailer starts with a clip montage of events in RE2 2019, with a clock counting backwards. This is followed by a first-person sequence of someone running away from a giant humanoid monster. At first, I thought the pursuer was a T-103, aka a Mr. X tyrant. Notice how the person who's running here is female. As the protagonist runs away, she topples over objects behind her to slow the monster's pursuit. Eventually, after going down a floor, the woman is cut off by the pursuer, smashing through the ceiling, blocking off her escape. As the protagonist recovers, we can hear the pursuer say something before getting cut off. That sounds familiar. As the woman jumps out of the flaming apartment building, we finally see who this desperate escapee is. It's S.T.A.R.S officer Jill Valentine. What an amazing surprise. So this entire sequence is basically an extended version of RE3's intro cutscene, the one where Jill flips out of her exploding apartment building's entrance. Notice how she actually flips through the door just like in the original game. I'm not sure if this sequence is going to be playable, but something about the way the camera is moving suggests player movement. It's not smoothly gliding around like a cinematic camera usually would in these trailers. It actually looks like it's being controlled by an analog stick. The rest of the trailer is a montage of scenes that happen over the course of the game. We get some really cool shots of Raccoon City in utter chaos. The second major character we get to see is UBCS Mikhail, who, by the way, had the biggest pop with everyone I spoke to about this game so far. Like, everyone loves how Mikhail looks now, and I agree with them. Mikhail being an older veteran, I believe enhances his character a lot more. I'm sure it'll be even more heartbreaking to see his fate with Nemesis this time around. The thing about this Mikhail footage is that the characters are in a train. If you don't remember, in the original game, we meet Nikolai, Mikhail, and Carlos in a broken down cable car. It seems like the cable car repair quest is shifting a bit into repairing this train. I imagine this will play out exactly like the cable car sequence, but just in a subway train now. The second UBCS we see is Murphy, who, if you don't remember, is the mercenary we find in the pharmacy. His fate is determined depending on what you do in the early game. Sometimes you can find him getting shot by squad leader Nikolai, or Carlos can find him where an emotional scene plays out, with Murphy begging to be killed before turning into a zombie. It's interesting because in this trailer it seems like Murphy doesn't want to die, and Jill is meeting him here, not Nikolai or Carlos. After this, we get an awesome shot of Brad talking to Jill while Raccoon City citizens are running for their lives. I love this because it looks like with this remake, the game will take place more during the outbreak and not in its aftermath. RE399 was really creepy because Jill was alone wandering the streets and avoiding monsters. This time, I think there will be more of a build-up to the original game's wandering loneliness. We'll be running alongside civilians trying to escape, leading to the dead city we know so well from the original RE3. Brad tells Jill about Nemesis and how the monster is searching for the both of them. It's funny because Brad is coming off way more confident and less chicken heart here than how he's usually depicted. I'm so excited to see what happens with Brad in this game. Just based off this small interaction, it seems like Brad will have a personality overhaul. Or maybe he'll just lose his nerve when Nemi finally shows up to take him out. Next, we get a super quick look at Nikolai, and he says to Jill, "We don't need a bleeding heart like you getting in the way." Before we discuss this further, let's go back to Murphy real quick. As Jill approaches the downed soldier, we see a set of stairs leading up. In the Nikolai footage, he's walking up this specific staircase. It's safe to say, judging by his dialogue, that he just capped Murphy in front of Jill. That's what happens in the original game in the pharmacy, and it looks like the characters are in a garage this time, which would suggest this scene now takes place in the Stagla gas station. So like RE2 Remake, certain character moments will be changing quite a bit. I love this interaction because it shows us right away that even if the location of the event is changing, Nikolai clearly isn't. He's still going to be a badass, cold-blooded psychopath. After this altered event, we see another new piece of content. UBCS agent Patrick is being followed by the main man himself, Carlos Oliveira. Now, I just want to say that Carlos's new look, I think it's way better than his original rendition. I remember for years people would call Carlos Green Leon, and yeah, his look was definitely in that vein. This time he looks like a true original character. Very Rambo, very John Wick, very P5 protagonist. Looks aside, the dialogue in this clip is the most interesting part about Carlos's reveal. We hear Carlos say, S.T.A.R.S office has to be in this direction. So this is new. Carlos and Patrick will be exploring the RPD, looking for the S.T.A.R.S office. This leads me to believe that this is either a new cutscene or a new gameplay sequence where you control Carlos in the RPD. The more I think about it, I can easily see the devs making the RPD gameplay segment star Carlos instead of Jill. Maybe this is how the two will meet. Maybe as Jill, when we're running out of the RPD away from Nemesis, we'll bump into Carlos and Patrick. And all three characters might have to team up against the massive tyrant. It could be any of these things, or none of them. We'll just have to wait and see. The ending of the trailer is a very quick mashup of random scenes. We get to see Jill in her apartment with an evidence board tracking Umbrella. Some more chaotic Raccoon City street footage. Jill running to a helicopter, but it getting shot down. I thought this footage in particular was very peculiar. Like, is this supposed to be the chopper that crashes into the RPD? That wouldn't really make sense with the game's timeline, though. Or is this the escape chopper that gets shot down by Nemesis at the clock tower? I'm very curious about this one. I've got a guess as to what's happening here. So I think the entire clock tower portion of the game will play out in the same way as RE399. But I feel like they'll fake us out with Nemi shooting at the chopper but missing. This will make the pilot move over to the top of this nearby garage. After defeating Nemesis in the clock tower's courtyard, then we make our way over to this garage where Nemi actually shoots down the chopper. That's my wildcard guess for today. I think that'd be a pretty cool twist for returning players, and it makes Nemesis look even scarier, coming back after such a brutal fight, a lot like how he did in the original. The final few frames show us Nikolai's cheeky grin and our first look at an RE engine hunter. This shot looks like it's straight out of the original. The way the hunter is creeping around in the darkness emulates that first hunter encounter in RE3, where it kills a zombie while appearing around a corner. Just seeing this short clip is so exciting. I can't wait to see how these guys will play. If they're anything like RE2 Remake's Lickers, they're gonna be terrifying. The trailer ends with some very interesting shots of Jill looking in a mirror and turning into a zombie. If you know the original game, Jill gets infected by Nemesis towards the end of the story. I'm thinking this scene might be a PTSD-induced nightmare while Jill is asleep in the clock tower. I also have another wildcard theory about this potential nightmare. I have a feeling that we'll be getting some sort of Spencer Mansion flashback, or some kind of memory where Jill is wearing her original S.T.A.R.S uniform, big shoulder pads and all. I just think that outfit is too iconic not to be remade, and it would do a lot for Jill's character to sort of have her life flash before her eyes type of thing while on death's door, in this infected state. I want to say the Chinese comic series, the Resident Evil manhwas, actually had an issue where Jill had a nightmare like this. That'd be a really deep cut for the devs to take inspiration from, but it would be really cool too. Of course, this isn't really the ending of the trailer. We get a nice stinger of some of the Raccoon City Hospital and the Nemesis's containment pod and activation. And with that, the trailer ends. April 2020. Geez, thank you for this wonderful Christmas present, Capcom. This game looks so good. I really like everyone's redesigns too. I was hoping that if Capcom was going to remake RE3, that we'd be getting Julia Voth as Jill, but sadly this isn't the case. With that being said, I still like this new face model. When I look at her, I see Jill. I think her new outfit is a little generic. Jill has officially entered the badass woman's jeans and tank top club in this remake. Once I actually play the game for myself, I'm sure this look will grow on me a bit more. It'll be fun seeing how disgustingly dirty she gets too as the game goes on, like Claire from RE2 Remake. The very brief clips of Nemesis look great. We've gotten more clear views of this creature through screenshots and promo art. And yeah, I think he looks sick. He does have a nose this time around, which has blown people's minds all across the internet. I understand the dislike for this update because Nemesis has had the same design for like 20 years, so any changes implemented will come with at least a little backlash. I think Nemi looks cool though. He reminds me of some kind of Ito Junji type monster. The nose makes it clear that this creature was once a man whose face has been twisted up and to the side. The skin and flesh barely clinging onto the skull creates this incredibly unsettling image of horror on the monster's face. I think it's awesome. Nemesis's upper body seems to be covered in some sort of wrappings, with the words caution printed on some of the straps. It makes this giant monster feel like a product, a BOW just waiting to be tested. I definitely prefer the original leather outfit more, but this new idea is pretty cool too. The real question I have is what the heck is the iconic S.T.A.R.S line going to sound like in this game? We get a really fast clip of it at the start of the trailer, and it sounds like the devs are trying to make it sound like the PS1 Nemesis. I appreciate this because, for whatever reason, every other time Nemesis showed up in an RE side game, his S.T.A.R.S line would always sound so terrible. It never got any better after his initial outing, which is really strange in my opinion. This is actually very important to the Nemesis pursuer role, and I hope they nail it for the final game. By the way, an update to this video occurred while I was making it. I think I was the one to break this story based on the amount of coverage my tweet got, but in the new RE2 RPD demo, while in the courtyard, you can hear a quick clip of Nemesis screaming "S.T.A.R.S" off in the distance. Wow, that's actually kinda terrifying. I wonder if this scream is coming from a further mutated Nemesis. Since RE2 takes place after the halfway point of RE3, it makes sense that this deeper sounding scream would be coming from a more messed up and angrier version of the persistent monster. Wherever this takes place, I'm so hyped to experience it. I wonder if we'll be getting an unlockable classic Nemesis look for this game, like Jill and Carlos are getting. Speaking of Jill and Carlos, both characters will be getting their classic costumes as unlockables. If you pre-order the game, you will get these outfits right out of the gate. I love the way Jill looks in her classic street attire. Comparing her 99 model to this classic rendition is exciting because it shows how faithful the devs are trying to be to that original render. Jill's hair and face are perfect. I can't say the same for Carlos though. When you get a redesign as good as his, going back to the good old days ain't gonna cut it. Just look at him. Not only is he way hotter now, he just looks more practical, like a real-life mercenary. There's no way I'm allowing classic Carlos to take the spotlight over this stud. By the way, I do have some bad news for you guys. I know I'm about to break a few hearts with this discovery. That is not a skirt. That, my friends, is a skort. Basically, a pair of shorts made to look like a skirt in the front. As soon as I saw this render, the folds on the front piece stood out to me immediately. If those odd-looking folds aren't a skort, then I don't know what the heck is going on here. So you hear that, y'all? No peeking up Jill's photorealistic skirt in this game. I know some of you are really mad right now, and that's okay. I won't judge you.
Not now, I'm busy.
Oh yeah, let's check up on Umbrella's new site. Nope, still not good. Still not using Squarespace either, I see. And what's that? You've never heard of Squarespace? Well, let me tell you all about them. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform where you can create your very own website. To start, just type in what kind of website you want to build, and Squarespace will bring up the best fully customizable templates for your inquiries. You want to make a blog where you can catalog all of your favorite survival horror babes? You can do that. Want to sell some stuff? Those tools are available as well. Squarespace is really fun to play around with, but it's also great for starting a business. The most awesome thing about Squarespace is that they're giving my viewers 10% off on their first purchase. When you're ready to kickstart your online presence, just go to squarespace.com/thespherehunter to get 10% off on your first purchase. By the way, the third survival horror heroine is now up on my site. Today's babe is Regina from Dino Crisis. Thank you so much, Mav Eric, for suggesting this badass lady. If you want to contribute to my site, just leave a comment down below of who you'd like to see cataloged. Once again, that's squarespace.com/thespherehunter to get 10% off on your first purchase. Anyway, story changes and redesigns aside, we do have a few things to talk about when it comes to RE3R's gameplay. So along with the reveal trailer, we also got a special video message from the game's producers, Peter Fabiano and Masachika Kawata, that shows off a very brief clip of in-game footage. Here we get to see a bunch of civilians running for their lives down this destroyed city street. As this happens, a zombie shows up, and in this quick encounter, we get to see Jill's familiar emergency evade dodge move. Now, the first thing I noticed is this dodge animation is extremely similar to the dodge found in Resident Evil Revelations 2. If you haven't played that game, dodging was a one-button affair. You can basically spam it in any direction, and level it up to gain more distance and iframes. Since RE2 2019 didn't have any sort of leveling system, I doubt RE3 2020 will either. Since this footage is HUD-less, it's difficult to determine if this dodge runs off stamina, or if it's going to be just like Rev 2's dodge. Either way, I'm very happy to see it making its return. It didn't work that well in the original, so I'm glad it seems to be a lot easier to use this time. With a creature like Nemesis chasing you around and being much faster than any pursuer in the series, dodging will be very important. Another small detail I noticed is that Jill also has a defensive dagger, like Remake and RE2 2019. It's interesting because she has the unbreakable knife that you can unlock in RE2. I wonder if you'll just be getting that knife, or if they're just using it as a placeholder for now. So with features like dodging and being able to break away from grabs with defense items, RE3 is shaping up to be a lot more action-packed compared to RE2. A lot like both of those games' original versions. Looks like history is repeating itself. Not only did we see this in those specific features, but also in the amount of zombies on screen in this game. You'll be facing off against way more here than in the previous title. I imagine that comes with the environment being much more open this time around as well. Something I noticed on both Jill and Carlos's models is that they have shoulder-mounted lights. So unlike RE2, the flashlight will probably snap on automatically when in a dark area, instead of the character having to pull out their flashlight and hold it up in front of them. Other than these additions, there's not much else to talk about. The game seems a lot like RE2, but faster. Guys, I'm so excited to play this game and to see badass Jill Valentine do cool stuff and overcome those impossible odds stacked against her. Again. If it's anything like RE2R, it's gonna be so great. The realistic and dark tone of recent Resident Evil is one of my favorite things about these new titles. The Nemesis chases are gonna be so harrowing to deal with. The thing I'm most excited about with this remake is seeing what the devs do with the story. I really hope all of the locations from the original RE3 are present. I want to see a photorealistic Raccoon City Park, press office, town square, and the Dead Factory. Some locations in RE2 were either cut or completely redesigned, and that stuff isn't really a bad thing, but for RE3 I want all of the original game to be here, along with new story sequences and puzzles. Another thing I feel is very important to RE3, and should definitely make a comeback, is the live selection branching path system. Obviously, this mechanic added so much more replayability to the original RE3. It was so much fun choosing a path to go down and experiencing a very unique story each time you played the game. So I really hope this branching path stuff happens. It'd be an understandable letdown if it doesn't though. Thankfully, we don't have to wait much longer before we can get our hands on this title and see if all of what we talked about today is legit. I'm honestly really impressed with Capcom. Their output in recent years is mind-blowing, releasing banger game after banger game since 2017. I was genuinely surprised to find out RE2 was the most well-received video game of 2019. While it wasn't completely accurate to its original counterpart, everything presented to us about RE3 Remake seems to be very accurate to that game we all know and love. Hell, this trailer alone has shown basically every original character besides Dario and his daughter. I think the devs working on this game are going to stick true to as much as they can from the original RE3, and it's gotten me so hyped ever since the announcement. Just 4 more months, guys. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Nemesis, bring it on.